The other John Murphy, his brother named John Murphy, had the land up there with he moved from where his father was. He went to Greenville, and my granddaddy got married in Blanconia or Sarko. Blanconia had filling stations, churches, schools, everything.
Well, that land in Odom, that's what they traded for the...
No, my grandfather traded his off for
That's what I'm saying. That was
his brother
that was that stuff out in Odom. Okay.
Welders got it. His brother traded his off for a wooden saddle tree. Land was cheap then.
Yeah.
And that's why the Mexicans got the land grants too, wasn't it? Because it was so cheap they didn't want it.
Well, no, they
land
wanted,
grants come to the Irish.
I know.
but they did it because, didn't they do it because, they didn't want to live up here, but they wanted Mexican citizens there because they had to be Mexican citizens when they came
Mexicans wouldn't stay here.
there. Yeah, because
The
Indians is
Mexican
different
people
stuff.
wouldn't stay here. Some of them did. Don't get me wrong. Some
Yeah.
of them still ranchers here. Like the Welder Ranch, that was all Portilla land. And that old man Portilla had 2 daughters, and old man Welder married one of them, and she died, and then he married her sister. Portillas come back and sued the Welders for the land, but they had nothing to do with it. They were cousins to this bunch. They didn't own them. They come back and sued for it, and got everything there. And the judge said, I'm sorry, you got no claim on this land. It's still Portilla land. But it's under the name of Welder now, because she married a welder.
Yeah.
So they lost. They waylaid old man Welder on the Ranges River or Chiltepin, somewhere down there, he and his wife, and they killed him. Portillas did. A lot of them lived in Bayside. St. Mary's, it wasn't Bayside.
Well, there was a book written about that, wasn't there?
All kinds of books. Gerald Martin's reading all kinds of books.
But I'm talking about the Portillos and the Welders. I mean, that whole
yeah,
deal about, they supposedly, they believe that they killed their daughter or something like that to get the land or whatever through the marriage or whatever, and
they just trying to say the Welders took away from the Portillas.
that's what I'm saying. There's some big conspiracy.
That's just like what my daddy bought, and then Bill Murphy come back to sue for it. Willie didn't buy it. My daddy bought it. Where I'm at, all that.
Yeah.
Everything I got sold by that, and that 80 acres.
Who sold for it? Who sued for it?
Nobody. I said it's just
Oh, okay.
I know I don't. Whatever I filmed, I don't want to delete it.
Oh, I don't know.
I was just.
Can I download this into a...
I know I've heard.
Put all that on the computer and delete all that.
There was some big history book about the
Portillos.
Portillos and Welders.
I got it.
And the reason I say is because
Oh, you're doing it?
I remember somebody they were talking about making a movie about it.
Well,
I don't know if they ever did or not.
On that marker there, going into the game refuge, stop there and read that marker. It tells you the history of
The Welder?
Welder refuge. Right there, that
Yeah.
historical marker tells you about it. You know who was eating them chicken bones a while ago?
Who?
Them blackbirds.
Well, Daddy, how did Granddaddy end up, if y'all were down there, how did he end up working up here?
He got out of the Second World War. He worked for O'Brien's in Papaloti. All that land below us was O'Brien.
Was O'Brien?
Below. When you say below, what do you mean?
When you go across Silver Creek, take a right, all that land there
Oh,
was
okay.
O'Brien's. You go down where Mike Barber is, all that
That's
land
all
was
O'Brien?
And, in 1939, Miss Hines got married. Her mother was O'Brien. They had to divide it up. He was running it for her because she got a husband. And they divided it up, and old man Hines and him come down. I was 5 years old, took her down to Wilson Ranch where he was working cattle. They tried to get Daddy to go work for them then. And old man O'Brien said, you can do what you want to do. You got a job with me or go to them. So Daddy stayed with old man O'Brien, and we moved to Imperial and working on the ranch. And old man O'Brien was the one that The old man is the one that hired Daddy. His wife died, and 30 days later he died. Well, they split all that land up. So the Hineses still wanted Daddy. They run their farm off and hired my daddy.
Did you?
And that's when we moved over here on the ranch.
Well, you know,
We moved from Papaloti to Greta on the ranch out
Did
there.
you use the 7 techniques?
Moved
use the
back
7
to
techniques?
Papaloti, and Daddy went to work for them. It's 2 years before they got a house ready for us out here.
out there over by the railroad
They
track.
run the Hineses. Yeah, that was the old original O'Brien headquarters.
And how many acres was that?
I think at one time the O'Briens boundly owned 150,000 acres.
Right.
But when Granddaddy was farming there, how many acres was
On
it?
this part, 30,000.
Still.
It was 90,000 when he worked for the O'Briens and all that before they flipped some of the land up.
That's a lot.
And the O'Connors, they owned the horseshoe. The O'Briens owned from the dump ground down there, Mitchell Bottom, all that Mitchell Bottom, both sides of the Mission River. That's O'Briens. Mitchell married an O'Brien. And coming all the way around to 774, across there where the Harkins land is and all that's O'Briens. Go all around across, straight across, keep it going. And the headquarters of the ranch where I live, that was O'Briens. All the way back, all the way across all these highways and all the way back again to the Blanco Creek.
It was like a
That
horseshoe,
was
wasn't
O'Brien. They had a horseshoe, and O'Connors had a horseshoe around them, bigger.
Wow.
Really?
They had about 450,000 acres.
Lordy mercy.
Mm-hmm.
They went from Copano to the other side of Goliad. O'Connors did.
Mhm. What, yeah, going back to like with your grandfather and all, they came in the 1820s. What were they doing?
Your grandfather came from Ireland?
Yeah, he come over here. They had to be Catholic. Mexican government sponsored him.
What was his name?
John.
John Murphy.
John?
He's in the cemetery up here. All that history's right up here in the cemetery. That's my great grandfather.
Your great grandfather came over
Great grandfather come over.
with your grandfather.
No, I don't know when my grandfather was born or where, but
Uh-huh.
great grandfather did, and it's on the tombstone, but I can't remember. And they had to be Catholic and become Mexican citizens. See, Santa Ana and them didn't fight us. We were Mexican citizens, but we had to get in the fight because we didn't want Santa Ana taking over everything. But they didn't fight us. They
Well,
fought
but that's
mostly
what I said. What
Tennesseans.
did your great grandfather know? What were the Murphys then? What were they doing during the war? Where were they at?
Two of them got killed up there on the totem pole up there. St. John's were also, they
Yeah.
come over there from my grandmother's side.
But I mean, were they? I mean,
They had land out here on Jackson Road and all that stuff that Lawrence Wood and them bought back there where Ronnie Henning used to have a big house. All that was St. John land.
Hey, when they came over from Ireland, where did they come into? Galveston or where?
St. Mary's.
that's
Bayside.
Bayside.
Oh, they came in right there?
Yeah.
They said
On
you
the
could-
boat?
You know where Jack Henning's place was on 774? You know where 774 and you make that turn and they got that oil field thing over here? The Erickson house was there. This Hines owned it. Erickson lived in it.
I don't think anybody else
They
drinks
sit
it.
on their front porch and look down to the bayside and they could see them schooners, them masts coming in the port down there. From there. Wasn't no
I remember
That was all
those stories.
prairie
If that's
then,
where they came in, I remember hearing that.
They came into Bayside.
Y'all
Wow.
got, I want to tell you what, y'all got a lot of history in your family.
Yeah.
St. John's and the Murphys and the
Almost makes you want to do that leaf thing. that they-
Ancestry.com?
Yeah, Ancestry.com.
I
bet
checked
you
into
find
that
out
one
a
time.
lot about that.
That's not cheap.
No, it ain't.
No, I already did it. It's expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there-
checked into
Did
it.
you
I was
go
going to do
through?
it, but it's
Did you go through
expensive.
Salt Lake City or something else? They say you can get everything out of the Mormons up there in Salt Lake City.
Oh, no, this is at Ancestry. See it
gotta pay
advertised on
for it,
TV.
though.
Yeah, but they
You
say
gotta,
they
they
got
say they do it. You're right. They say they do a good job, but you got to pay lots of money. I mean, to get a really good, complete thing like that, no, you're talking about spending $10,000.
Gerald Morgan had been reading all this history, Hobart Houston books and others, and then he's questioned me about it because he knows. He said he wished he'd have known my daddy to listen to him tell his story.
Shoot,
Daddy
yeah.
could draw. Daddy could go in a cafe, and he could draw a crowd in 10 minutes, listening to him tell them old stories and all that.
He used to draw a crowd just talking, not even about that. Everybody came and sat around him.
Everything he talked about was the truth.
Yeah, I know. He
Tell
But you know what I remember you talking about that? I remember that.
But
We'd
we
be in a
were
big
citizens.
cafe, and his dad would be in there talking. People would move tables out of the way, move chairs, and just surround him with
Yeah.
chairs.
Yeah, listen, I remember- I
When
remember that.
when we hit the shores of Texas, we were Mexican citizens of Mexico. You had to become a citizen of Mexico, and you had to be Catholic to get a land grant here. Because all of the Mexico was Catholic, the Spaniards and all them. You had to be Catholic and become a Mexican citizen. So all my ancestors were citizens of Mexico. And then after the war, they broke everything up. And you ever seen a picture of Texas? Original Texas?
Huge.
It goes all the way to
Guadalupe River, all the way up to them
Montana.
counties. It goes all the way up
No, you're talking about Refugio County.
Refugio County.
Oh,
Yeah,
Refugio
you said
County.
Refugio County, and it goes all the way to the Nueces River, Old San Patricia. McGloin and McMullen were the impresarios for that. McMullen County still, it's named after one of them. And Old San Patricia and all them come under theirs, but up to them was Refugio County. And the state of Texas come in then and broke the counties up. Rockport used to be Refugio County. Ranges County used to be in Refugio County.
I was up late the other night, channel surfing, and on the History Channel there was a thing about the Irish coming over. It said everything.
Well, who
about
was-
how big
who was
Mexico
the-
was.
Half of them didn't make it. They died at sea.
Well, who was the first big impresario here in Refugio? That was Powers, wasn't it?
Powers and Houston.
Houston?
Powers still got people there. The Shades are all Powers.
There are they shades on?
Yeah, and all them. And there's this black set of Powers. They I don't know how the white and black mixed up there some way, but they were all complected like us. And Willie Brown was Powers. Yellow Reno, the rodeo arena out there. Old Yellow
Willie
Power.
Brown, which Willie Brown?
Little Willie.
The little Willie was?
Willie,
Really?
Big Willie, yeah.
I didn't know
Wallace
that. I didn't know that.
Wallace Shea admitted it. I mean, he knew all his ancestors.
I liked Willie. Willie used to take care of me. Yeah, I liked Willie.
Refugio County treated the blacks free when they weren't free. The Scots on land on 774, the Bensons on land on 774, more of the Scots and the Averys over on San Antonio River joined the Fagans, and they were black and they were treated. Texas, this part of Texas, Refugio County, the blacks never were slaves. They got their land and stuff. I don't know how they got it, give it to them or what, but they still just own some of that land. We were the first school in the state of Texas to integrate.
Is that right?
We integrated in 1954, built this school, and they did away with the black school year by year because they had black teachers that didn't qualify to be a teacher in this school, and they kept that school. Carl Green and them went down there till he's in the 7th grade.
I was in the 6th grade when they integrated. When I came over in the junior high, the rest of them
they
came
kept
over.
all of them teachers in that school open till those teachers retired. Refugio County was very diversified.
That's what I always liked about Refugio. Everybody got along. It didn't matter what you were.
No, they still had Brad. When they still had Bearfield longer
Well, they
than
closed
that.
Mitch. It went from
When I was in 6th grade,
it
when
went from
everybody came
7th
over.
grade.
No, because when I was in 5th grade is when they shut it down completely.
Yeah, but Mitch, it wasn't nothing but the 1st grade, didn't it? As them grades come up, they eliminate them until they
No,
got
I
down.
thought the whole thing shut
Yeah,
down.
no, they-
No, they didn't. They shut, it took
Yeah,
them
'cause
7
they-
years to shut it
Because
down.
in 5th
Okay.
grade, when I went into 5th grade, after 4th grade, when I went into 5th grade, is when they shut it down completely, and all the rest of them came over because that was when because I remember because me and Larry Griggs are still good friends. He moved off to Houston, but it was at that point I was not the fastest in my class anymore because Larry Griggs could barely outrun me. We still talk about that. That was a big deal. I was number 2 after that.
Well, about 2 years ago, Ernest Guerrera, Vivian Rivas, Jolie and Vivian Rivas and I were in the grade together. Marcelo Ramirez, Rudy Capistran. Vivian lives in California and Joe just moved back from California, Jolie. and they found out I was at the Dairy Queen in the morning, and they come down there about 9 o'clock, 9:30, and we sat there and talked. Us, what is it, 8 of us?
I bet that was fun.
We talked for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And Vivian said, Joe said, Vivian, you got to catch a plane back to California and stuff. And I said, yeah, I know what it is. Y'all tired of, all you Mexican boys are tired of visiting with this damn Bolia. And Vivian said, Murphy, you ain't never been a Bolia. You've been a Mexican all your life.
Well, you know, that's what I
That's
tell.
about the truth, because I never had a white boy in my house at the ranch, but I took them home with me.
Well, that's what I tell Tuna and them all the time. I said, you know, I said, how far back do you go? You know, they talk about different nationalities and all, and why would we be Irish American? Why wouldn't we be Mexican American? Because they came over and they're Mexican citizens.
Yeah, we could go.
So why aren't we Mexican? Why aren't we considered Mexican Americans?
And they said because,
That's what it seems like to
and
me.
they said because we turned you down, we didn't want you. No, that was some of my best friends in school, was them boys.
I tell people that the first Refugio was everybody got along, white, brown, black, and all. And I tell them about you on the ranch. I said my dad speaks Spanish. All those black cowboys spoke Spanish.
And they all loved
That's
my
what
daddy.
Refugio
They
back
loved my
then.
daddy.
I remember growing up. It was really neat because I can remember when I left Refugio and went to Beaumont. I was amazed at the racist stuff that happened. I honestly, because of living in Refugio, I honestly believe that was stuff on the History Channel. I did not know any of that still went on. That when I moved to Beaumont and I saw all that stuff that was going on, I was like, wow, I never knew it, because here in Refugio, it was never like that.
But didn't everybody on that ranch speak Spanish?
Oh yeah, most of them could, because
Yeah.
everybody lived together. We lived all over this place. Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't no difference. You know, you go eat with somebody, whatever. Now we had a cafe here that wouldn't let the minorities eat in the front. They ate made them go to the kitchen.
Really?
One, La Rosa. And your
LaRosa
mother-
was
your-
like that?
Yeah, your mother was in the band, and Tommy Wilson stopped by La Rosa with the band. And old lady went to the door and said, "These people have to go around to the back." Tommy said, "No, you don't. Load up, kids." They went to the Cardinal and everybody ate together. But it was one old family. That was it.
I remember we used to live in South Carolina, and my dad he's dark complected. And we were gonna go and eat somewhere, and they told us we couldn't eat there because my dad and my sister were both dark complected.
Really?
So we lived in South Carolina.
Wow.
I can remember other towns where they had to eat in the kitchen.
See, I can believe that in South Carolina,
It
though.
wasn't the Mexicans that had to do it. This was the black kids, and they had to eat in the kitchen. Hell, we had them at the house eating with us and everything else. And at the ranch, that old man at the ranch headquarters, all the whites ate together when we worked the cattle, and then what they call the Latinos and the blacks ate later. But when the old man on the ranch was gone, my daddy said, "Come on, boys, we work together, we eat together." They loved my daddy. Every Christmas they went to visit him. There'd be 20 of them in that house visiting him.
Oh, really?
And he always,
Oh, really? Over here?
Yeah.
All
He
right.
That's after he retired when he moved.
Well, what was old Quentin Love?
Oh, that's Quinn Love.
Quentin Love?
That's from Pabola. He's a different breed. I didn't know him.
Oh,
Until I
okay.
got the roping kids. Yeah, this place, we had hell playing playoff football with the blacks on the team.
Oh, I bet.
Played Nederland in Robstown. They didn't like it. We beat them. And should have won state, went to semifinals. Huntsville beat us. And 2 years later, we had to play Nederland again in the playoffs, and we played in Nederland. Hell, they had to find places for James Thomas Lawton and to sleep.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. God dang, that's right up in the middle
Oh,
of.
yeah.
That's still that way today.
And we didn't get good calls from the referees neither.
I'll bet that's still that way up there today in that area.
My daddy could talk. He could talk pretty good. They told me, said, you can't talk in Mexico. Said, what you learned here is Tex-Mex. I said, what the hell you talking about? All our cowboys come from Guanajuato and Jalisco and all that. And I learned Mexico language. I didn't learn Tex-Mex.
So is
Do they still call our up here Tex-Mex?
Yeah, they do.
They still call it that. But see, I learned it from the Mexican boys that come over. They teaching me that, and I was teaching them English, and they said English is the hardest language in the world to learn.
Well, I've heard that.
I've heard that a lot of
Somebody else
places.
said that. I can't remember who.
I had a
said
hard
that.
time.
wait, let me see some.
teaching
Because
them
different
what to
words
say.
can mean different. I mean, the same word can mean different things.
It was the
Well,
guy
there.
in Costa Rica.
Right.
One of our guides, Jeanette had asked him, or Bob, I think it was Bob, had asked him, was it hard for you to learn English? He said English is the hardest
Hard
language there is to learn.
Yeah.
We heard I was just these last 4 weeks when I was taking that technical writing class.
Well, yeah.
We were in this classroom, and the classroom right next to us was a English second language class. And while we were doing class, we could hear them, and they're repeating this stuff, these small phrases out there. At first, we were like, what are they doing in there? Sounding like a cult or something, everybody chanting and all. And then we went by and see it was an English as second language. People were all learning it.
Daddy, when y'all on the ranch out there and y'all had all those cowboys, did they all live out there?
No, it's so close to town. We had some bachelors who lived in that bunkhouse. And we had a bunkhouse by the kitchen where Daddy and them lived before we moved over here, and then we had another bunkhouse, and they lived there, but it was only some of the bachelors. Most of the hands lived in town. And we come in every morning. Well, Preston Williams,
What is that?
he's a black boy, he'd
What?
come in his
Oh, that
truck,
smells
pick him
good.
up every morning.
This
Lemongrass.
lemongrass keeps bugs away.
Oh, really?
I was getting it, but
He'd go knock on the door, and his
You just put 2 drops in your
Sylvester
hands
here?
and
No, he don't stays here no more.
drops.
He's over there about 3 blocks. He gotta find him another woman.
So how many ranch hands were there?
Working
Just rub your hands
cattle
together and
radio,
put all over your
15,
arms.
20. The rest of the time, 6 to 8.
Oh, okay.
It smells good.
it keeps the mosquitoes away.
You know what gets me, these old stories you tell, is y'all actually did the chuck wagon thing, went out on the...
Well, we did the chuck wagon, but it was the back of pickup.
Oh,
We
really?
never did it with the mules because we had a camp house and stuff at the San Antonio River, and the one at Papalote, and the one behind the ranch out here. That big, it was 14,000 acres, one pasture, and the Middle Creek was the creek run through there, and they had a camp house there, and they had a kitchen with a table in it, and had a big fireplace on the end down here, and about 4 foot out, they had cement where they start the fire, rake the coals out, and put the Dutch oven on, cooked right. In Papalote, they cooked outside, and San Antonio River, the cooks cooked outside on wood fire.
They still do that in Mexico.
Huh?
That's how they cook in Mexico.
Them Dutch ovens, I see you still see them. You know what a Dutch oven is?
Yeah, it's just like that cast iron with the top on it.
I thought that was
Bob's got a
farting and
lip
pulling
on
the
it.
blanket
Yeah.
over.
You put coals on top, just
Right.
like you put them underneath.
Never
it.
heard that.
See, I want
What?
You never heard of that?
The what?
What I know is a Dutch oven is like when you fart and you pull the blanket over.
Dutch oven.
Never heard that.
I've heard that.
Well, you know what I want. What I want to do is I want to get a Dutch oven pan or whatever that is. I want to cook some cornbread that way. I think that's got to be the best cornbread in the world.
We cooked cornbread, cooked stew. You had different sizes of them pans. You cooked stew. All the red beans were cooked that way.
Well, that's at the
Rice was cooked that way.
At the Austin Rodeo, they every year they have like the very first opening day or whatever. They've got all those cowboy. Instead of like a barbecue cook-off, they have like a Dutch oven thing. Everybody, and I mean, there's like 1,000 people out there all cooking cowboys, and everything that is cooked at breakfast, desserts, everything they do is all cooked in the Dutch oven
Oh,
stuff.
that's all they had.
And that's and it's pretty neat, to go out there and see all that
Well,
stuff.
Dutch oven's a cast iron skillet, right?
Basically, yeah.
You can't beat it.
Oh yeah.
Well, I bet the store down here still got some. Jeff had them for sale in there.
That's where
Yeah,
it's
you can
got
buy
coal.
that
It's
stuff.
got coal on both sides, right?
Yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
lip on top where you can put the coals on top.
Everything had a handle on it. All the lids had a handle, and you had a hook, metal hook you could pick it up with, keep from burning yourself. And of course, it was all coals and ashes around there. And if you have to kick a few ashes in the food, it didn't hurt nothing. They don't taste. You just didn't want to kick dirt in there, because dirt was grit. But you could fall in the food, didn't mean nothing.
Daddy, when y'all go working cattle, what's the most amount y'all ever got in one? How long would it take, and what's the most amount y'all ever got?
What do you mean?
When you went out to round up the cattle and bring them in, how long would that take?
Papalote took about 10 days.
10 days?
San Antonio River took about 5 days because it's prairie, except for the river bottom.
How many cattle?
And out here, well, it's nearly 30,000 acres, so it's going to be at 2,400 head total. But you worked pasture and pasture and pasture. You didn't work a whole ranch all the time. You worked it all at once, but when you got through with this pasture, you moved to another one. I love Papalote. San Antonio River wasn't bad. And at the ranch, I loved the ranch there because it was all that. It was 14,000 acres. When Daddy ended up there with Miss Hines, she got half of it, so that was 7,000 acres in one pasture. And it's 28,000 to 30,000 acres. What it was.
Didn't you go on? I thought you went on a cattle drive, like to San Antonio.
Daddy and them used to drive some cattle from Papalote to Beeville, and the buyer there, they camp out there, and all of them on one camp. Rocky Reagan's men would buy the cattle, and from there to George West, they'd drive them. But my daddy went north one time, but that was O'Brien's feeding cattle out in Nebraska and Kansas and up through there, and that grass is so rich, instead of feeding them, it's steer cattle. They raise a lot of steers, big steers, and they take them on a train, move them up there for 6 months. Then before winter set in up there, they move them back. And they had them cattle cars, and you had to unload them. They had shipping pens here every 10 miles. They'd have to unload them, water them, feed them, let them eat out on the track or something, load them back up, go again. And one of them cattle cars was a camp house. They had the bedrolls in there and the cooking utensils and the groceries.
Well, that wasn't Texas up there back
They
then,
didn't stop
was it?
every 10 miles. No,
Okay,
they stopped
right.
once a day.
That wasn't Texas up there back then, was it? Because I don't know how far back it goes. You seen those
Oh,
maps
that
where
was-
Texas went all the way to like Montana?
No, that was when the Kansas and Oklahoma and all them were states.
Okay.
That was in the 20s. In the 30s, they still run cattle. They quit doing that before I started working cattle with them. But they put them in the summertime up there, the wintertime here because it wasn't as cold in the winter. And then they sell them. They'd sell them from up there. But he never made but one trip, I think. And I don't know how far he went. Or somebody else took over or what.
I bet that was
But they
I bet
paid,
that was a rough, hard trip.
them people that owned the land that they paid them to put their cattle on, they took care of the cattle. The Ryans didn't take care of them no more. You know who Malaysia's kinfolks are, don't you? Who she married into?
I know.
The Norfleets?
Good Night.
Oh,
I've
that's
heard
right.
that
I remember
before,
you
yeah.
saying that.
Good Night Trail and Good Night. And they had all them trails they used to do when they trailed them up there. I never knew anybody that rode a trail ride up there. I guess everybody was No, when Malaysia got married, Keith's grandmother flew down from Amarillo to San Antonio. They owned from San Antonio. They owned from Amarillo, still do, to Canyon. And all that land in between there. She flew down in her private jet.
Oh,
for the
yeah.
wedding.
They still own that land? That's a lot of
think they
land.
do. But see, you got so
It,
many.
what, from Amarillo into that like Palo Duro Canyon?
Yes, I don't know how far it went or what, but it was from Canyon to Amarillo. What's that? 48 miles, 50 miles, 20 miles, whatever it is, it's big. But like all other families, like the families here, the ranches are getting broke up to nothing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them incorporated. The King Ranch, the worst mistake they ever made is incorporated that. And they got board of directors and presidents, CEOs and stuff that know nothing about cattle.
Yeah.
And like the Claybergs, descendants of King, Tito Clayburg and them, they cannot live on the land.
Really?
The families run off of the land. They still get their income off of it.
Yeah.
But Billy Weller told me out here, he was younger than me, and he'd just been made boss of the ranch about a year before. Went out there, our pipeline went through the ranch, and I was talking to him. And I said, well, how you doing, Billy? They farmed and they ranched and all that. He said, it's no fun. He said, everybody thinks they got a good job. He said, how in the hell did I make a living for 82 families? They kept theirs together, they didn't incorporate it, but everybody got a share of them profits.
Yeah.
And he said, it don't work, can't do that. So a lot of them sold some of theirs off. Clayburg, one of the Clayburg heirs sold all of his off down the King Ranch.
Well, King
They say
Ranch.
the King Ranch stole land from people and all that, and the O'Connors. And Jose Villa moved from Norias. Y'all know what Norias is before you get into the little stop in the road before you get to Raymondsville? Jose Villa, V-E-L-A, but he called it Villa. And he come in to Papalote and bought some land, married a woman that had some land. And he said, something Daddy and them